Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Carbon, and with me, of course, is Mr. Matt Terrano. We have a very special guest coming back and visiting us again, Mr. Phil Terrano. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Mark, how you doing? Happy New Year to you. I
I'm
know
telling you,
I
it's
know
it's
it's a little late in the new year wishing, but that's my first time on for the year, so I want to wish both of you guys a very happy new year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and as well. And it is a new year this week. As I sit here in Florida and I look around 15 teams coming to town, and pitchers and catchers are reporting as we live and breathe. So that excitement is just ripping through the state. And the same with Arizona. My gosh, there's so much going on. And Phil, we're going to talk a bit about your business in a bit, but there's a few things I want to hit on right now because being a Rays fan, oh my, it's going to be a crazy year for us. And there's always some news coming out, certainly now with new ownership. It's a lot of fun. Matt, what have been some of the topics that you've seen on the cooker for the Rays right now?
It looks like you guys are planning on another bid on a new stadium, and that looks exciting. I definitely saw that in the news and keeping up with my current events as I'm supposed to be doing here. But look, we're just excited baseball's back, and I'm hopeful that the Rays get the new home that they desire. And I think it'll be great for the fans. I think it'll be great for everybody in Tampa. Wishing them the best of luck with that because I believe they do need one.
That is something we've all been waiting for a long time. And quite honestly, Phil, I keep saying I'm not going to talk about it anymore because it has been a long, ongoing conversation. We've been doing this show for 7 years, and it's we've milked that puppy to death already. I don't know. I'm looking forward to these new owners and having something new. But yeah, but wow, big thing for us right now. We got the Fan Fest coming up here. It's with the Rays, and this weekend, let's see, Saturday. Yeah, today is Wednesday, and lo and behold, it's not going to be held actually inside the Trop. It's going to be held outside because I guess they're putting the finishing touches inside the stadium right now as we speak. So instead of just calling it Fan Fest, they're calling it Fan Fest Block Party. So it's going to be a big parking lot. It's going to be busy. I'm excited, looking forward to that as well. Usually they have some of the old uniforms and such that they're willing to sell 3 for 1 or something like that. I'm curious to see what's out there. Matt, you were talking about something about some uniforms recently too. What was going on with that?
Yeah, so I guess Patrick responded to one of the fans that was writing him and begging the Rays for them to bring back the road gray uniforms, the ones that have the tail that goes across the entire front of the jersey. So apparently Patrick's wrote back with two eyes saying, oh, he sees it, and I'm guessing he supports it. So it's something we can anticipate the Rays bringing back. And as we spoke about before, Mark, we think there's going to be a more, I shouldn't say that, because the whole grit and glow thing was pretty
Oh,
cool,
yeah.
what Stu Sternberg brought in. So the Rays have always had an ability to transform their uniforms back and forth. And I mean, do they have the most uniforms in MLB? Like the different versions they've gone through? I don't know. But it's something that Patrick obviously is a fan of and is looking into. And I wonder if they'll make all of them more available for sales, which is something that I've heard a lot of people gripe about, what's available for them to purchase.
That's it. And you're talking about Patrick, and you're speaking of one of the triumvirate of owners of the Rays.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, God knows, well, I'm one of those people who will probably buy just about every jersey that I can afford to. Terrible. But I love it. Even gifts I've got in the past were from, oh, here, Mark, here's a jersey for you. But the design, I was really curious to see what our City Connect was going to be. And they came out with that grit and glow, and I absolutely love it. It's one of the most creative things I've ever seen any of the teams do. I mean,
Mhm.
if you, was it, you go up at Chicago and they put South Side across, and there you go. That's it. Here, we'll put South Side on the uniform, and that's who we are. And I don't know the Grays, man. That's interesting. I do like the tail of the stingray on there, but I gotta tell you, every time I see gray, my mind goes to the Yankees, and I see those road uniforms in gray. So part of me just snarls anytime I even think about that.
Yeah. So Phil, what are your feelings about baseball in Florida in general? Like right now, we're seeing the Rays. They're doing it a little bit differently than what the Miami version did. They seem to have been taken to the cleaners a little bit by getting taxpayers to pay for their stadium. Loria made out like a bandit, pretty much retired himself from baseball shortly afterwards when he sold it. When you look at the Rays situation coming up and all the inner workings that are going to happen with Steinbrenner Field and Jacksonville and possibly having the Rays owners having to sell all that, but all together in terms of baseball in Florida with spring training started, what are your feelings about baseball in the game in the state of Florida?
Look, baseball in Florida is obviously definitely needed. It's probably one of the best, in my opinion, best states to have it, right? There's a tremendous amount of people that obviously play the game here from a youth level all the way up, which is a lot we'll be talking about later on with some of my ventures. But for the most part, I truly believe that the organizations are needed here. I believe that there's good opportunity for even maybe more organizations to come later on down the road in certain other markets. But I do believe that having spring training here, having two good organizations here is definitely helpful for the fan base. I'm not necessarily in agreement with some of the locations. I'll say that and go on the record of saying that. I never believed that the Miami Marlins Stadium should be where it is. I'm not a fan of the location, but I am a fan of the fact that they have baseball in Miami, and there should be baseball in Miami. I always thought out west was always a great spot for it just because of the ability to navigate and geographically get to it a lot easier than where the location is currently right now. But the both organizations are great from my perspective to deal with. I have a lot of close people that I've dealt with over the years that are great individuals that work for both organizations. I enjoy it, and it should be here. The fans deserve it. As Florida's grown tremendously, and you get a lot of Northerners and everybody coming down here, and of course they want to see baseball and they want to see their teams play, but they also want to have a home team that they could probably be proud of. Big advocate for baseball being in Florida. When I first moved to Florida, there was no baseball. We were baseballless, if you will. And then, of course, the Marlins came around later on, but I moved here back in the late 80s. And then, of course, baseball wasn't here at that point, but came a few years later. And it was very exciting. So it's exciting to have baseball, in my belief, in any state, because baseball is the greatest game of our culture, of our being a part of the game has just been a blessing for me. And it's just most people that obviously understand and love and enjoy the game deserve it in their markets. It's just, I
Yeah.
would love to see it in more markets. Nashville, especially. I'm a big component of the Nashville.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, they're all great points. I think one thing that comes to mind in my mind when I look at, because Mark and I have talked about the Australian Baseball League and they're struggling. Like they've cut
Yes.
the number of teams down there in half over the winter. And one of the things that I think baseball may want to consider down the road, we see a lot of players go back to the Dominican, go to Mexico, go elsewhere for winter ball. In the winter, there has to be some sort of space where they could have a winter league that's all based in the southern states at a point where you could actually get a lot of the people that want to prove themselves that were injured during the year, that are looking to add, looking to improve, and even mix in some of the youth that want to step up and be a part of that and make some sort of winter league. I think it'd be a lot of fun and a good addition to because you guys have the facilities. Like you've got all those spring training facilities that you could use. You've got a lot of overhead that's being paid for anyhow. And
Yeah,
it would only make sense to actually use a lot of that for business purposes.
that's a very good point, Matt. And I'm curious why nobody's ever thought of that. Seriously, and personally myself, I have never thought about that. But you bring up a very valid point. We have the facilities, we have the ability to bring players here all year round, play all year round. Puerto Rico has been a very big avenue for winter ball these years. Probably within the last 5 or 6, it's grown tremendously as well. So you got Colombia, you got Mexico, you got Dominican, you have Puerto Rico, and of course the Australian leagues and a couple of the other ones. So yeah, I would be a big advocate for that. And thank you very much for that idea because that's not a bad idea. I'll bring that to the next meeting.
There you go. You never know how things start, right? They kindle somewhere, and I'm glad that it piqued your interest.
Yeah, and it makes sense. We're probably one of the warmest climates during that time of the year. Although for Mark, and I'm sure you too have heard about the cold weather we've been getting here for the last couple of weeks, but it's starting to warm up again. But for the most part, it's been 75 and degrees and 60s at night. And that's how could you complain about playing in that weather?
Exactly. And there has to be like a complementary thing. I know one of the things baseball is talking about right now is trying to work in more international awareness and more spotlight on baseball as a whole. The WBC is going to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
But even
Yep.
if you had some sort of competition within that season where you go to the Dominican Winter Leagues and you have some sort of competition or tournament,
Yep.
once the champions are chosen, maybe after the fact, etc., where you have a short 3 or 5 game series between the teams. Yeah, I think people would watch it too. Like it could be an add-on to a lot of the sports networks, and I think they would have interest in showing that as well, even if it is in football season.
Yeah, true. But 9 out of 10 times I'm probably going to get ridiculed for this one, but 9 out of 10 times the Dolphins aren't in the playoffs anymore. So what difference does it make?
Oh,
Yeah. Of all the Miami teams, they get the worst rap, even though the Marlins struggle. They've won some championships recently.
Yeah, yeah,
I say,
yeah. I would say so. You got the Heat, you got the Panthers, of course, who are doing it phenomenal. The Miami Dolphins just can't seem to get that situation under control and get look at New England this year. That's been a pretty impressive run for a team that just got back to it. I'm by far no New England fan, but at the same time, that's pretty impressive to get back to where they got back to this season.
and
And,
let's not
and
forget Lionel Messi getting them to build a new
yeah, and you
stadium
got
for
soccer. Yeah,
MLS. Yeah,
yeah. You
that's
got
a huge.
soccer, which is huge here. Tampa, I'm sorry, Port St. Lucie's now getting one
Yeah,
as well. They're building that facility, so soccer's growing. Florida's just a great place to have all sports.
yeah.
Literally, it is. Again, when I moved here, there was no baseball, there was no hockey either. It was the Dolphins and the Heat. That was it. And then, of course, college sports, which really kept you going.
It's a good point. I wonder if anybody's ever considered how many athletes have gravitated down to Florida compared to what it used to be, like back in the 80s,
Yeah.
etc. Like that is a really good point because I've never even put the brain power towards that, but it has to be really significant.
When I moved here, the Yankees and the Orioles were in Fort Lauderdale. That's how far back I go of being in South Florida. And that was all we had. That was it.
Yeah. I'd be curious to find out. And especially when you talk about the money. So the money that's been poured into all the stadiums, all the arenas, all the fields, that is a significant amount of capital.
Yeah,
And once you have that infrastructure, that's what attracts future athletes. And then they
that's
get
right.
more spotlight on them. And as you're talking about before, you have ventures that are tied into that, being making use of those facilities.
Yeah,
And it starts the machine turning. I've seen it here in a different scale in our area, where once you have certain levels where you can see like the whole ladder, right? The ladder is in front of you. You can go here for that. And then you've got the whole trajectory to get yourself to the optimal level. It becomes possible. So then in your mind, you're like, oh, that's a possibility. I can climb that ladder and actually make it all the way to the top. I've seen it happen, right?
absolutely.
That makes dreams happen.
Again, you got to start somewhere. Like I said, Miami had the Heat and the Dolphins, and that was it. But Nashville's now growing in that area of more sports and more opportunities. And I think you'll start seeing a lot more of that too in other areas. But the more sports grow and continue to keep growing from a youth development standpoint, and the areas start growing from a population standpoint.
that man, I'd probably like to start up with what you're doing right now as far as growth in baseball and some of what's going on with your organization. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I think the last time I talked to you guys, I had started a youth travel league as a by accident, really. And I say by accident because what happened was is my kids started playing in the youth a travel ball organization standpoint or traveling around, playing in different tournaments, playing in different leagues. And I just felt a need to do something different and to give back in some sort of fashion and way to where it was making it more memorable and not always about the bottom line dollar. And because that's what a lot of what I was seeing was a lot of just, as I called it, the show and go cluster in a sense from a youth sports standpoint, where parents are paying hard-earned money to go to these different areas of baseball in South Florida or joining these different leagues. And they were just not getting what I thought was a great value for their money. So I decided to start this league. It was called the Florida East Coast, or still is called the Florida East Coast Travel League. And we did well. We had our hiccups along the road, like every new organization and new person coming in and stepping into somebody else's pool, if you will, from a competition standpoint. So we had some trials and tribulations that went along with that. But for the most part, I always sat back and said, as much as I'm always the guy that likes to be liked and wants people to understand why I'm doing things and wearing my emotions sometimes on my sleeve a little too much, I definitely am glad I did what I did, because what I feel like I did is I changed the way people had to go about their business. You started seeing what I was giving out from a trophy standpoint, or from an award standpoint, or from a no gate fee standpoint, or whatever the case be was going on at that time, of how I was trying to think of different ways of giving instead of taking so much. You started to see, we were doing press conferences with the kids and putting up a nice step and repeat with logos and all kinds of stuff, and having actual reporters sit there and interview the kids during and in between the games and after the games as post game interviews. And parents were loving it, and kids were feeling like they were big leaguers. And that was the whole point. Let them get an opportunity of something that maybe one day they could go back and remember, because they didn't make it to the next level and actually get to be a part of a post game or pre-game press conference. What you started to see was a lot of people starting to do that and starting to change the way they gave out their trophies or rings or whatever. So I feel like I made an impact of allowing people to realize there's a new person in town that's doing something a little bit different, and people are starting to really gravitate towards it because it's different, it's more memorable, it's a better experience, and that made them step up their game. It's maybe a bad analogy, but when a McDonald's has to beef up its hamburger because the Whopper's moving next door, you know what I mean? I felt like that's what I was doing. And you don't see it on the outside looking in, because you're so focused on doing what you're trying to do to better it. But what I was getting was a lot of people were saying to me and sending me articles or sending me posts of somebody else's Instagram. And what I was seeing was other people doing the stuff they weren't doing before.
Yeah.
And it was very heartwarming. But I was only one guy. It was a family owned and operated business. It was me, my wife, and my kids running 96 team tournaments and running 78, 80 team league divisions from 8U all the way up to 14U. And it just wasn't enough hours in a day for me. And when I go at something, I go at it. I don't do anything half. The cup is full when I do it. When I go at it to make sure it's full, and I give all my attention to it. But between my agency, my clients, my own personal time with my family, watching my kids grow up and watching them play, and my son becoming very even more heavily active in sports, and both my kids, I was running myself ragged. So what we recently did within the last couple of weeks, actually, is we finalized a deal to partner up with Prospect Wire, which has been in the business for over 20 years, and brings a very good reputation of not only the aspect of travel baseball and tournaments, but also the memorable experiences, the opportunity to give back a little bit to the community. But what they didn't have was the younger divisions. They were doing a lot more of the 13 and above for that showcase opportunity for kids getting ready to try to get to the next level. And what they saw and what we were doing was the younger groups, which I always said that I was great at the younger groups, but always having that hard time to get the 13 and the 14 and 15-year-old groups, which was weird for me as an agent, because those are the kids I really want to watch. No offense, but I love watching 8-year-old baseball. It's cute, it's funny, but for my profession, I want to see the older kids that maybe I have an opportunity to represent someday. It was weird that I never really grabbed that niche of grabbing the 13 and 14 and 15-year-old groups at a large capacity, but that's what they have done. And now with having a brand that, Fleetle, as everybody calls it, Florida East Coast Travel League, but it got a nickname of Fleetle. It's stuck, and people love calling it that. And we branded it pretty good with that. So having Fleetle's ability to go out and get younger divisions and bring in younger age groups and to collaborate with their older age group professional opportunities, and that what they've brought to the table with that, it's going to be really exciting. I'm very excited to be on board with them as a partnership with them, staying on as a consultant with them on a national and a local level for 5 years. So we didn't sell, we partnered, and they kept me on as a good advisor to what I've done and keeping the good times rolling.
In terms of going in with that organization, I know a lot of times they have their own sponsors and their own
Yep.
equipment that they can help with, etc. How does that improve your situation for that essentially?
Look, every bit helps, right? No matter what. And I've had a lot of good connections over my years with vendors and stuff like that. And in fact, I'm wearing one right now, which is another project I'm working on and another collaboration I've joined a part of, which is Stinger Baseball and Stinger Sports. But
You don't slow down, do you, by the way?
I just enjoy sports. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy something new on my plate. Sometimes my wife thinks I'm crazy, but that's just the way it is. But in answer to your question, Matt, it's just what they're bringing to the table for their resources and then combined with mine and all the relationships I've made over the years from my profession. And of course, with Lidl too, we had Gatorade sponsors at one point in time. We had Rawlings, we had Marucci, and now we're going to have Stinger Sports. And it's just the two great minds think alike. And then when you bring all those minds together, it can only grow and it can get bigger.
That's awesome.
I'm really been glad to have you as a friend and visit on the show. And one of the things that's encouraging, because I always feel like you put those young players, those young athletes first. And we've talked in the past too, because I sometimes I wear blinders. I know this when it comes to this, Phil. It's about thinking about travel leagues. And it's like suddenly stigma just comes right there in front of me. It's like I can't see anything else. It's everything's terrible with it. It's because all this money has to be spent and everything else and all the travel and the expectations that some of these kids are going to become pros. And if they don't, oh my gosh, what happened with that money? Is that I know my prejudice, okay? But I've seen what you do and it diverges from that. And was that mode that you were breaking and you're starting to see a little bit of change with how other teams or other organizations are working with their players, whether it be through awards, et cetera? How are you seeing that as, I guess I'm still concerned about it being a negative impact on community ball, American Legion ball, and that sort of thing?
Look, again, big advocate of Little League and Legion. I played Coach Legion. I played Legion ball. I played Big League Baseball, which was a part of Little League Baseball up at the highest level of Little League Baseball at one point in time. And they unfortunately got rid of that division, coached in that division many years ago. What I think is people did see somebody new come in and do something different. I don't think the mindset has changed. And I don't think I think we're lost on that aspect. I think we're lost on the aspect of trying to be realistic with what the game and how hard it is to get to the next level. I think everybody still thinks their kid's going to be the next Derek Jeter or whoever. And that's okay. It's okay to have good aspirations, but it's also, there comes a time when you have to be realistic about it, right? There's not a scout watching an 8U game. There's not a scout watching a 9U, 10U, 11U, 12U, 13U. There's not, right? So this situation of wanting to be hungry to do a tournament every single weekend is somewhat not necessary. If you're doing it for fun, great. If you're doing it for rankings and points and thinking that Clemson's going to be there watching you, or the New York Yankees, or the Tampa Rays, or the Miami Marlins, or any other one of the 30 affiliate baseball or Major League Baseball clubs, or thousands of colleges out there, you're sadly mistaken. That's not happening. Develop your kids. Develop them in practice. I had a coach say to me one time, and I'm sorry I have to say this, that he develops his kids during the games. And I wanted to hang up. And I think I did hang up, actually, because how do you develop a kid during a game? Yes, things during the games that you can work on in practice, but you don't develop kids in a game.
No.
You develop them at practice. You develop them to, what do they say? You practice to get to the game to perfect the practice that you learn from the practice.
They go hand in hand, really.
100%. I coached for many years before I became an agent. And I'm still a student of the game. And I don't learn on the field. I learn off the field, on the sidelines while I'm practicing, and I develop myself. So how do you do that during a game? I just never understand. This is an 8U, 9U coach. And I
Mm.
was like, if you have that mindset, what if the ball's never hit to that kid during the game? What if he never sees a play? Okay, maybe he needs to learn that he has to back up the right field, or the play. The right fielder has to back up the first baseman on particular situations, and the left fielder the third baseman, whatever. But he's moving around, yes. But what if the ball never reaches him, or never touches a sole of that leather? How did he develop?
Yeah. Yeah. You wouldn't want a coach like that as a chemistry teacher. That's for sure. You're trying to figure it out.
No, I wouldn't. That's another very good point, Mark, is you guys are coming up with some really good stuff tonight with some ideas and analogies, because you don't teach chemistry by testing it out.
Yeah. Not in the middle of an experiment. Hey, how
No.
about add some potassium to that? Oh,
Yeah,
let's see
I
what
would
happens, shall we?
not, and not in my house. I wouldn't. And truthfully, guys, my house has been the baseball field for my entire life,
Oh, wow.
because I grew up on the baseball fields. I've devoted my life to this game, and
Mm.
I never ever developed during a game. I developed with my coaching and my coaching staff on practices.
Well, I think with Fleetle and what's your commitment to the game and what people see, that what you do with the use there, it's not just this portal to MLB. It is for a life experience. Then it's for enjoying the game, learning the little minutia before they ever get onto the field, and supporting them, giving them a sense of enjoying the game itself, and in a good competitive atmosphere. And so I salute you on that, buddy. I appreciate it a great deal.
Thank you. Yeah, there's nothing better than competition. I'm as competitive as anybody else. I want to win. And when I want to win with grace and lose with integrity, it's just, unfortunately, I think we've gotten away from a lot of that stuff these days.
I think what it teaches a lot of kids is showing up.
Yeah,
Like I always say, like like you were just saying, it never touches the glove, it never does. But every kid gets to go at the plate and face that pitcher, and
maybe,
you
maybe,
hope. But
maybe.
it's one of those things where I think sports and music and performance, even dance, etc., on a stage in front of people, you're as a kid, doesn't matter whether the scouts are there or not, you're always feeling like you're being evaluated and you're being tested, right? So you're testing yourself and you're growing that confidence and that all those little details that you need as a person, as an individual, whether or not, like you said, 99.9% of the people are not going to make it to the show, but it's going to make them into stronger and more capable human beings down the road. I think that the interesting part with this Fleetle thing is the test to me is, do the kids that go through it when they have kids, are they putting their kids in that same program? That's going to be the test of time that'll tell you. It's like a self-evaluation.
Yeah.
If when they have kids, they're putting them in the same program they had, then we've been successful because we're getting that whole machine going, and it's a reflection on us that they enjoyed it so much that they're willing to put their own kids in through it.
And truthfully, that's why I went with Prospect Wire, right? Because not only have they been around for such a long time, but they bring a national setting to the equation, right? And that national setting can last forever, right? And somehow, some way, my legacy lives through that, of what I've built with Fleetle. And I have my own kids. And like I said, it was a family operated business. My kids were out there flying drones, and because their father doesn't know how to fly a drone. And they were out there doing interviews with the kids and putting a mic in front of their face, giving them an opportunity to speak into a microphone,
I love it.
and bringing baseballs to the umpires. And that's something that we built together as a family. And but now we've taken it to a national stage. That's pretty impressive, that a nationally recognized organization such as Prospect Wire recognized what we were doing in the youth level of a sector that they weren't in down here in South Florida, and thought enough of us to partner with us and be a part of what we've grown to this point, but could never really take to that level doing it as a family and operate. And maybe I could have, but there's just not enough time in the day for everything else I'm doing. You know what I mean? And that's really was my sole purpose of, if I'm going to do this with somebody, I want them to be able to take it to the next level, because I just don't have the time to do it.
Yeah. Obviously, pardon me. Obviously, about what you've been bringing to the table with this has made it easier to build those kind of relationships and make something like this happen, this expansion. And just even on this show, I want to remind folks, like I said, sometimes I've been a bit of a naysayer in the past, but that was, if you look at something from, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. Now, looking at with what you're doing today and incorporating that and seeing a much broader perspective, that Fleeto is something that I would certainly say that people should look at closely if they want to, and give a path for their child to enjoy the game, to understand the game as much as anything else. So that's great you're doing it, brother.
Just make it memorable. I've always kept it
Yep.
in that mission statement. Make memories, because you don't know when you're never going to play this game again.
Yeah.
You just don't. And from a little kid to, look, I give anything to play one more great game and enjoy every moment of it. But my time has passed. Now I live it with my kids and enjoy watching them play and watching my clients perform and doing everything I do on that aspect. But there's one thing that I always tell my children, especially, is that have plan B, because you don't know when this game is going to end for you.
Yeah.
And if you love it that much and you want to stay in it, plan B could be staying in it, but have plan B.
My plan B is if I play a softball game and the ball is 5 feet that way or 5 feet that way, it's a home run.
I like it. I like it.
You brought up one thing that made me think about injuries and helping young people through those as well, not knowing also what the future holds, having a plan B. And my gosh, jump back to what's going on professionally. If you look at the Rays right now with Shane McClanahan, he's had so many challenges over the years, and we're hoping to see him come back. And Matt, I know you were talking about that. How do you say it properly? Hamate bone? Hamate bone? What?
Hamate bone?
Hamate bone. Why can't I say that? Thing.
Yeah, the injuries that are going on. What are your thoughts on injuries in general? I guess is the best way to say
Yeah.
that, because I can remember a time, it's not that long ago, maybe in the 2010s ish. It was just don't throw any splitters. Like they didn't want anybody to throw any splitters because they thought that's what caused all the Tommy Johns. And then all of a sudden it was all about the sliders. And then all of a sudden it doesn't matter what you throw, it's velocity. And so, with the kids at the levels that from what you've seen, what would you say is the overall advice that you could give people on how to monitor those kinds of things, especially if you're a parent and the coaching is pushing your kid towards a certain direction?
That's a good segue into what I wanted to talk about too. I talk a lot about my kids because obviously I love my children and I'm a proud father of boys that play sports.
Mhm.
That of a dad who basically has made sports his entire life, especially baseball. My advice in that situation would be, you don't need to play every weekend. You don't need to be at a tournament every weekend. The body needs rest. And I say this because my son is now attending the Wellington Sports Academy here in Wellington, Florida, which was opened this year by John Bostic, who was a football player and really opened it as a baseball academy with the emphasis of opening it up to more sports later on down the road. But part of his crew that opened up I should say his staff and partners now, is Devin Travis, who played for the Detroit Tigers and the Toronto Blue Jays, Brad Peacock, who played for the Houston Astros. These are some of the guys that are training my kid today,
Mm.
which is pretty cool. And I know a lot of them because of my relationships in sports, but mostly because of them being a part of this community too. And my son just played his first game this past week since October.
Wow.
Why?
Mm.
He's been developing.
Mm.
He's in the academy. He's in the gym. He's learning how to properly lift weights at now 14 years old. He just turned 14 in December. He's learning how to treat his body. He's learning how to stay healthy. He's learning how to do everything you're supposed to do that we just talked about, that you're not developing during the game. You're
Right.
developing on the field for practice, and he gets plenty of that. He's in the cages, early morning workouts and late workouts and all this good stuff. To answer your question and not drag it along, is basically there's a time to rest the body appropriately to where you're not throwing a million sliders in a weekend, and you're not throwing split fingers, and you're not throwing curveballs, and you're not trying to shoot for the gun radar, you know what I mean, blow the arm out or do something that's going to get you injured, right? And don't get wrong. You can lift weights and get injured. We can do that too. But at least we're not constantly making a sudden move and an elbow and I'm doing this. We're doing things to properly get our body up to strength to prepare for seasons because there are seasons in baseball. These guys get time off for a reason. Now, some of them don't take it and they go play winter ball, and some of them do this to do that. And I get it because they're trying to better themselves in their careers, but the body needs rest and it needs to be able to develop appropriately.
Oh, that's great to hear.
So that's my advice. Try play games. I love playing games. I love being around a game. Practices can be boring sometimes. We all know that. They may be boring because they're not an action-packed game, but you're learning and you're developing. And then when you get to that game, man, is it sweet? He's got a doubleheader coming up this weekend. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to Sunday since last time he played. But for me, I get to see this every day. There's a lot of people that are just so impatient. They got to play games. 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 It's just not the way to do it. And that's why you're seeing the injury rate go up significantly.
It's a good strategy. I'm glad to hear that's a path that was it Wellington? Wellington
Yeah,
Academy?
he's at the Wellington Sports Academy, which is in
Sports
Wellington, Florida, here in Palm Beach County, Florida.
I'd heard Brad Peacock was doing something. I didn't realize where he was with that.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Just saw him this morning. And again, that's cool because now these guys are giving back too. You're watching that. I watched Devin Travis, who is one of the coaches and happens to be, I've known Devin since he's 10 years old. He was on that World Series team back with 2003 East Point Little League World Series, Boynton Beach Little League World Series team that went all the way to Williamsport and won. So I know him since he's 10 years old. Yeah. And now he's coaching my kid. And I tell him all the time, and I say to him, I love what you're doing. I love how you coach. And he laughs at me. He's, where did I get that from? I was there when I was coaching when he was part of that team.
Yeah.
But no, he didn't get that from me. He got that because he's so passionate about the game. He's passionate about helping these kids. He's passionate about the way he coaches. And when he coaches every play, literally every play, you see how that kid moved on first base and went to catch that ball. You see how he did this. You see how he did that. You see what you need to be doing every play. I don't know many coaches that do that anymore. I don't.
Yeah, I interviewed Devon Travis way back when I was covering the Blue Jays, and we were at the time, unfortunately, we were talking a lot about the injuries that he was struggling through to try to get enough to make good on his skills at the time. And so when you're talking about somebody that can relate to a lot of what we were just talking about injury wise, he is perfect kind of advocate for that. He can literally speak to how that can put a roadblock in your career, your progress, all the way through the minors.
He'd give anything to be injury free. And a lot of other guys too. His brother's Jordan Travis, great quarterback with FSU, and unfortunately sustained that injury. And it happens in professional sports, and sometimes it ends careers. Again, it treat your body right, and you give yourself a little bit of a better chance of not sustaining something like that. But it can happen, right? We can fall and slip on ice, and it can happen. Look at the skier that just went through. She's out there skiing with a torn MCL and then hits the flag. That doesn't even cause her accident. Was the injury that almost prevented her from getting into the Olympics. Hits a pole and then has another situation where she's got to have another surgery besides the one that she was going to need once the Olympics was over. So it's anything can happen. It's sports. It just goes that way.
There's so many great things we would talk about. I'll tell you one thing. This kind of goes the whole other way because I'd written some notes on this whole other topic. And that is, where are you going to watch your games on TV? It isn't until today I'm starting to hear about, I knew MLB TV was going to be able to, I could watch my team when they were away, but I wasn't going to be able to watch them here. And all the regional sports networks and who's going to be left. Man, oh man, that has been a free for all. Watching who's going to be left to this because there's so many of them have gone away. I'll tell you, Phil, here in Tampa, let's see, I think there used to be Fox Sports, Bally Sports. Geez, what was the most recent? FanDuel, whatever, the Diamond Group. And sooner or later, I said, who actually runs this team anymore, or as far as that? But evidently, looking just at a microcosm in Tampa, the RSN has FanDuel is gone, the agreement with the Rays, and now MLB is doing both from the local perspective, where we had a guy like Dwayne Stats and Brian Anderson, that group that we've known for so long and have become our friends on TV. I was scared I wasn't going to have them again this year, but they're going to be there. They're going to be just, I guess, within the MLB portal instead of that regional sports network with FanDuel. But it has been a it has been a nasty time because I see I'm looking over my notes real quickly. Six handed over production responsibilities to the league's media division last week, including the Brewers, Marlins, Royals, Cardinals, Reds, and of course the Tampa Bay Rays. The Braves are still figuring a few things out, but it's interesting to see all this change.
Interesting is not the word I would use. I would say the timing is intriguing. And then I think Phil can speak to this a little bit. If when you're getting ready for CBA talks and you're dealing with the turmoil that is the bulk of the money that MLB counts on in terms of the TV contracts, et cetera, being completely altered, how do you go into a war room after that and start bargaining on financial details when you don't even know a lot of years who's going to be covering what with how much money?
Yeah. Look, I've always said the major dollars are coming from the TV networks. Obviously, I think we all can maybe figure that out. Some people have the misconception that it comes from the ticket sales, and it really doesn't. It comes from major networking contracts and stuff like that. What I will say to that point is that I love the MLB network. I love everything about it. I love the commentators. I happen to know Harry Reynolds pretty well and a lot of those guys over there. I wish we would be able to just figure it. Look, streaming's becoming very popular now. Obviously, most people don't even have cable boxes anymore. It's all streaming, YouTube TV, MLB Network, or Hulu, or whatever. Obviously, a lot of these platforms are trying to stay creative too, and they have to because there's illegal ways of doing it too, and the networks are getting messed with. Sorry to say it, but there are, and I don't know any of them, but they are.
Yep.
I don't use them. I have my YouTube TV that I probably pay for every year and or every month, I should say, and I buy the MLB package and I watch it just like every other fan, right?
Yeah.
But they have to stay relevant, and they have to do what they have to do to keep the money flowing in from the network deals, obviously, and that's obviously going to be a very big discussion along with the cap if that potentially gets to the table again.
We've talked about the cap and the floor quite a bit on this show, Matt and I back and forth on this. And looking at a floor, I think it's always been saying, okay, some of these teams, and I'm not trying to get you to talk about any specific ones, some of these teams obviously have just really almost taken advantage of when the Dodgers are paying that ungodly luxury tax and way over what anybody would imagine. And these guys who are just basically siphoning all that money up with not really reinvesting in their team to have a competitive, strong team. Now, I'm also of the mind saying, yeah, okay, I get that. But if a team, the Rays, can do more with less, with an Eric Neander type of philosophy, if he can find a way where you're bringing and developing players early on through the minor leagues and bringing them up through that system and making good trades, I don't think that a team should be called out if they can have a successful season after season.
I don't think it's any secret that what the Dodgers are doing is pretty incredible. I'm not breaking any rules by saying that, but look, I grew up a Yankee fan, right? Obviously, I'm a fan of where all my players play
Right.
these days, and that's how I've navigated through my career of being an agent. Is I root for my players, I root for the guys, and I happen to know, like I said, I speak to a lot of teams all the time, 30 all individual clubs, and then teams over in Asia and Korea and Japan and Taiwan. And what I think is going to happen here is that we're going to have to start getting a little bit more creative of allowing teams to stay competitive and doing it in a way where the system isn't totally broken.
Uh,
And I don't think it's broken now, but I definitely think you're utilizing it to your advantage in a lot of different ways. And that's okay because that happens. Look, Steinbrenner did it for years, right? He always went after Cole and he went this way and he went that way and he got every big player, but that didn't always buy him a championship.
no.
It didn't, right? And Marlins are a perfect example of that, right? They bought themselves a championship, and the next year, what happened? Huizinga sold, and they were completely dismantled. And it's happened multiple times. So there's got to be some sort of compromise here somewhere. And we'll let the good people at the PA and people that I believe in that are at the helm of it to get what we need to do to get to that point where we can collaborate, sit down at a table, be reasonable, come up with great suggestions, come up
Yes.
with great ideas, and make it work.
Right.
Is it working right now? No. That's why we're going back to a negotiation table. If it was working, we wouldn't try to break it.
No.
So it's not working. So we
Yeah.
got to figure out how to make it work.
My stance on it has always been if the players demand enough of a open book policy for
Yeah.
whatever gets agreed to, and they agree on an even split 50-50, where the end result of whatever system is put in place is 50% goes to the players, 50% goes to the owners, there wouldn't be any war whatsoever. But I don't think they're ever going to open those books. So
No.
it's irrelevant. But the one thing I threw out today that was interesting is that I threw it back to Mark and we were talking about the cap and floor system. If you were to say the floor right now of all the American League teams was 125 million and the ceiling was 250 million. So basically the floor becomes half of the ceiling. Okay. What would happen is that it would cut 72 million off of two teams total combined, and it would add 172 million because of the five bottom teams having to add so much. So the net profit for the players would be $100 million. This is why I don't understand the players' position at all, because they would gain so much if they just pushed for the floor to be high enough that it basically blows the whole thing out of the water. The focus should be on making sure that gap between the top and the bottom is reasonable enough that you don't have one team driving a Lada and the other one's got a Ferrari every single year. That's what gets mind numbing as a fan to watch. We'll see every fifth year or every sixth year, the bottom teams come up and have a year where they're competitive and then they go back to sleep. And then we know the owners are raking in profits. They're not going to complain. And we know that top teams are happy to be in the playoffs continuously to the point where they're happy. So then it just becomes a self-defeating prophecy. And I told Mark this before. I couldn't care less to see the Dodgers back in the playoffs. I couldn't care less to see the Dodgers win another championship. It means nothing to me. If you
Right.
tell me the Pirates next year are in the World Series, I will watch every single game and be passionate about it.
Yeah, of course.
That's the thing that starts to lack when you have dominant teams like that. It was the same thing with the Patriots football for a while when they were winning continuously with Brady.
Right.
Um,
Look at Milwaukee though.
mhm.
Milwaukee has really stepped up their farm system.
Yep.
They're being
Yeah.
competitive every year. They're not a huge market team, right? They're not a Yankees. They're not a Boston Red Sox. They're not a Cubs.
But
They're
they're in
not
a division where nobody's spending like the Yankees and the Dodgers.
very true, but kudos to them for putting a good product on the field because they could stay stagnant too.
They could.
So I like seeing stuff like that. I love watching the Brewers come. I love watching Oakland come out, formerly Oakland. I like watching teams like that come around. That's what makes baseball awesome. Again, I hate to revert back to football, but because that's not my area of expertise. But look at New England again. They're a big market team, lost one of the best quarterbacks of NFL history, and somehow figured out a way to come back again. And that's what sports are all about. And that's what makes it exciting. So you're right. If you're seeing the Dodgers in every single year, is it going to be fun? No, it's not. But maybe you get the Dodgers in the Brewers. Whatever. Obviously not happening, but you know what I mean by that. It's maybe that starts to trickle down and does take effect when it happens.
Mm.
And hopefully we can get it to that point. Look, again, I'm a Yankee fan. I always will be a Yankee fan, no matter despite my job of choice and my career of choice. And we can't figure it out somehow, some way. And we pay a lot of money out to players.
Yeah.
Entitlement. There's a sense of entitlement. We spent this much. We're supposed to win.
But that's my point. On paper, it all looks
Yeah,
great.
I know. That's crazy.
But and paper don't mean nothing when it comes to October.
No. I tell you what, though, man, I have to say thank you to Major League Baseball for last season for the postseason because I have not, it's how long ago has it been where I've seen oh my gosh, a World Series like that. And
Yeah.
7 games, exciting games, some great players of both teams, some young players that were just fascinating to watch. And through all of that, the game is still healthy. There's room for improvement. God knows there's room for improvement. And hopefully we'll see a day where it's maybe a little bit more balanced. But to your point, Phil, about the unexpected, I won't say unexpected, but you don't know what's going to happen in this sport. Is never written in stone what's going to happen in each game. There's so many things that go on within it, whether it's a strategy, whether it's a change in the lineup. It's just always something fluid and exciting when it comes to baseball.
Agreed. Best game in the world.
Amen.
Hands down. Hands
I
down.
agree.
Matt, you got any other things you'd like to offer today?
The last question, and it's just for fun, it's just a joke. When are you guys starting to add the gambling into your tournaments in terms of getting the
Oh, brother.
because we're seeing it everywhere, and I just feel like it
Oh.
needs to be introduced at the 8, 9, 10-year-old level
go.
because the parents need something to do while they're in the stands.
You say you kid, but I was talking with a fella today. He's about 55 years old, and he was talking about when he was a child growing up in Ybor in West Tampa and all the little community games, how much sad betting was going on.
Really?
Well, yeah, way back in the wind. And it's interesting when you look at baseball from a lens from the past. Where I grew up, there were bookies everywhere in Louisville, Kentucky, and you could go into anywhere, any bar, and they would bet on anything, even the local community ball. But anyway, I digress.
I thought it was a funny comment. I just thought it's getting a little bit outlandish in terms of how much it's in your face now everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Every commercial, just
it may be heading there one day, but I hope it doesn't head there too soon.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That being said, Phil, is there any special project you'd like folks to know about or any special charity or thing that you'd like to remind people about?
Now that we've shifted gears with Prospect Wire, because Fleetle was a not-for-profit, and I'm working on a new profit or not-for-profit that I'm probably going to put into some sort of college fund situation that I plan on doing. But I don't have that name just yet. I haven't really thought about it. Everything has happened within the last couple of weeks. And of course, I got spring training right around the corner. I'm leaving for the World Baseball Classic here. In fact, earlier tonight when you were texting me and I was watching my son's game, I was ordering my ticket on Delta to get out to Houston. And then I'm heading out to Arizona right after that. But nothing quite yet. But know that I am always thinking about how to give back and do something. I was actually thinking about putting, I don't know if I've ever told you this, guys, but I lost my sister in a car accident when I was 11 years old. And I'm thinking about making a charitable foundation in her name. I think I would like to do that. I know I had the non-for-profit before, but now I still have technically a non-for-profit and I can take that and transfer it over to another name. I think I would like to do that in a memory of my sister who passed away in a car accident many years ago. So I am thinking about doing that, but I do want to give a shout out. One of the questions I want to ask you guys, what do you think is the biggest thing that prevents people from playing baseball?
Video games.
Not kind of the area I was going in, but okay.
No.
We'll give it that.
Getting enough people to the field more than likely,
Yeah.
all at once. I think organizing it.
That is key. And that goes back to where with community, where I'm thinking you had adults in the community, maybe the neighborhood, who basically brought that brood underneath their umbrella and got them to gather together. Maybe the whole idea of whether you're getting the kids pizza after the game, all of those things, that sense of community, whether it's with a travel league or whether it's through a community YMCA ball, whatever else. I think that's a big part of it, Phil.
I like where you guys are going, but I was really more referring to the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cost has been tremendous, and I'm guilty of it. I buy my son a new bat all the time because, quite frankly, they grow like weeds too, right? And we're constantly buying cleats, and we're constantly getting a new glove, and we're constantly getting this. So one of the major situations with why people choose other sports compared to baseball, I believe truly is the expense of it, right? The travel aspect of it, the cost that goes into the equipment, the everything that kind of surrounds the game of baseball, right? And I was mentioning Stinger Sports earlier, right? So Stinger Sports is a gear company, apparel company, team uniform company. We do wood bats, we do BB core, we do USSSA bats, we do custom gloves, we do custom batting gloves, batting grips, arm sleeves, you name it, we do it top to bottom, right? And I just recently got involved with this company after many months of looking around and seeing quality versus cost, and also the expense that has gone into the game, right? And for parents and for the youth sports community. And this company by far beats everybody out. And I've dealt with the major brands, right? The Rawlingses, the Wilsons, the Louisvilles, the everybody you could possibly imagine, Nike, so on and so forth. And from a quality standpoint and cost effective standpoint, this company is beyond. I'm still questioning how they do it, honestly, and now I'm part of it. So I'm learning, and I'm learning how they're doing it, and I'm understanding the margins of it and everything else. But I also understand the quality of it. And if I can make a plug, if you don't mind, is for the youth parents that are out there, and check out Stinger Sports. And you won't be disappointed. You're getting a BB core bat that's normally going for $400 and plus, okay, in certain situations on the combats and the hype fires and all these bats that are out there for $199. And it's the same quality. And it's exit velo off the same situation that everybody's so caught up on. My exit velo was 110 off that bat, and the Bat Brothers are on YouTube, and we're all watching them. And what's the next hottest bat coming out? They were part of one of the hottest bats that Bat Brothers actually had on their show of what they do. So check it out. Gloves at a very good discounted rate. And just in general, if you're looking to play the game and cost is an issue, but you're also worried about quality at the same time, check them out.
Okay, yeah. If you would send me that information, I'll make sure I put it in the notes for anybody who wants to follow up and find out more about that as well with Stinger.
Absolutely.
That's all I got. Matt, anything else?
No, I'm good to go. Thanks
All
for
right.
coming on, Phil. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Matt, it's been a pleasure. Mark, as always, thank you again. I love joining your show. You guys are just awesome. And you have great ideas and good analogies and good stuff. I really like that winter ball thing. As much as I keep saying you got to take a break, I like that winter ball thing down here in South Florida. So I may bring that to you the next time I talk to you and say, hey, I decided to do a winter ball team down here, guys.
I
I
will.
don't have enough to do.
I would love to see it, Phil. I really would.
Yeah.
So you get good support, and others want to join along with you.
If I ever get my complex 2 getting going, and I'm still working on that, guys, that dream has not died, and it will not.
Good.
Maybe we'll host the first winter ball situation there.
Fantastic. I want to thank you all again for joining us here today on Baseball Biz on Deck, and we hope you enjoyed it this week. Come back with you next week, so look forward to talking with you again real soon.
Find out more about the products that were discussed with Phil from Stinger Sports. The best wooden BBCOR baseball bats, batting gloves, custom uniforms. Stinger Sports at www.stingerwoodbats.com.
If you enjoyed this show, go ahead, like and subscribe to Baseball Biz on Deck. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on YouTube at iHeartApple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Also, you can find Matt at matgermain.bskysocial. That's Matt at matgermain.bskysocial, or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bskysocial and Baseball Biz on Deck with Facebook.